This is a quiz by David Byler and Yan Wu. Will you fall into the conspiracy theory rabbit hole? Take our quiz and find out. This is a quiz according to the Washington Post that can be used to gauge how far down the conspiracy, how conspiracy brained are you? Do you have the correct thoughts? Do you have the correct understanding of history, or do you have a weird conspiratorial view of history? So let's just dive into this quiz here. There's a little preface to it, and it says, "Who believes in conspiracy theories? Statistically speaking, almost everyone. A team of researchers recently showed several thousand Americans a list of 20 common conspiracy theories and asked if they believe them. These included false conspiracy theories about the John F. Kennedy assassination, 5G cellular wireless technology, Barack Obama's birth certificate, COVID-19, and climate change. The result? 9 in 10 Americans believed in at least one conspiracy theory." Conspiracy police are coming to arrest me right now. The study, led by Adam Enders of the University of Louisville and Joseph Oshinsky of the University of Miami, surveyed a representative sample of 2,023 Americans in March 2020 and 2,015 more in October 2020. This article uses questions from their surveys to test your knowledge and your credulity. So, can you tell fact from fiction, or will you fall down the rabbit hole? Scroll down to find out. Okay, so first question here. Let's get started. Which of the statements below is true? Statement 1. Jeffrey Epstein, the billionaire accused of running an elite sex trafficking ring, was murdered to cover up the activities of his criminal network.
True.
Would you say that is true or false?
That's definitely true.
Yeah, that's 1,000% true. I'm clicking. Oh no, actually no, we're wrong.
Oh, what?
We're wrong. Sorry. Here.
You guys are so fucking stupid.
Let me just go to the other statements here.
I can't believe I'm gonna fail this quiz because I agreed to take it with all of you. This is the same thing.
That's the peril of group projects.
Yeah, this is the thing that sunk me on the ACTs as well.
So the other statements to determine their veracity are: President John F. Kennedy was killed by a conspiracy rather than by a lone gunman.
Yeah,
that's also absolutely true.
Definitely true.
Okay. Oh no, we're saying that's okay. Apparently, according to quiz, that's wrong. All right. Okay. Second, third one. The FBI kept tabs on civil rights leaders such as the Reverend Martin Luther King Jr., attempting to find compromising information and damage his reputation.
They also killed him.
Yeah, they did murder him.
That is the one correct answer according to this.
Oh, you mean the most like anodyne, like we all know this, like unactionable part of it?
The thing where like it's the only one on here where like it's the agency that did it, like being like, oh yeah, we did it, but we're done doing bad stuff.
The one they admitted to doing. This is shit is such like how you doing, fellow conspiracy theorists.
And then when it says,
right, look, we're not total squares. Like, we know that the FBI bugged Martin Luther King, right?
Yeah, like in 40 years, like there's going to be another one like this, and like Epstein will still be on there because it will like replace JFK, just how like time cycles things in and out. But then like the one like true answer they'll give you, the true thing, like the limited hangout one for that one will be like, the FBI, like, you know, just set up like mentally disabled people to like try to commit mass shootings because like in 30 years, they'll finally admit to that. And then that will be the thing where like, oh yeah, but we don't, that was like when we were bad in 2019.
Yeah, we figured it out. We don't do that anymore.
It's I mean,
even
like,
though there's never ever been any real negative consequences for any of these agencies doing anything, and there's never been any actual uncovering of any of them while they were happening, we all just decided to stop doing that shit.
And you know, this is a pattern that will be continue throughout the rest of this quiz. But in the correct answer about the FBI kept tabs on civil rights leaders. Okay, he says attempting to find compromising information and damage his reputation. I mean, that's one way to put it. You could also put it that they attempted to get him to commit suicide, and when that failed, you fill in the rest.
Also, like kept tabs. Even the one they're willing to admit is like made ridiculously anodyne. Kept tabs on, illegally wiretapped, you could say.
Yeah, keeping tabs is like you do that. It's like when my cat's in the living room. I'm like, yeah, what are they up to?
Well, they can't say like illegally wiretapped, because then that would like make you like, oh, the thing that they're doing to like everyone now. But then their answer to that would be like, no, but the FISA court.
Now the last statement in the first question is, regardless of who is officially in charge of the government and other organizations, there is a single group of people who secretly control events and rule the world together. I mean, that's obviously false. I mean, there's probably 2 or 3 secret organizations.
Yeah, and they have conflicting and overlapping agendas, and that they're not all on the same page all the time. That's ridiculous.
So, now, the interesting part about this quiz is the answers that they give you that are supposed to correct you. So, obviously, the first one, it's if you believe that Jeffrey Epstein killed himself, like I just don't understand like how you can justify that in your head. So, Jeffrey Epstein, the billionaire accused of running an elite sex trafficking ring, was murdered to cover up the activities of his criminal network. Absolutely true. According to the Washington Post, wrong. Here's how they justify it. New York City's chief medical examiner concluded Epstein killed himself, and there's little credible evidence of an alternative explanation. Still, half of Americans think there's more to this story. Gee, I wonder why. There is little credible evidence to suggest otherwise. I mean, like,
they're not reading enough Washington Post. You got to read the Post, folks, to get the truth.
Can I just say how funny it is? Like, this is the thing that's supposed to draw you back from conspiracies. Yeah. Is like the thing that might as well be like the internal newsletter at the CIA.
Yeah,
being like, you're being unreasonable.
Yeah, I mean, but of course that's not the point. Like, there is absolutely no. I don't think anyone involved in this has any belief that they're going to turn anybody from conspiracy theories. This is pandering to their audience of lanyard dickheads who can like click on the right answers and then pat themselves on the back that they're not like those crazy people.
Yeah.
Just for the JFK one, President John F. Kennedy was killed by a conspiracy rather than a lone gunman. It says wrong. The evidence is clear. Lee Harvey Oswald acted alone to assassinate President Kennedy. But 44% of Americans believe this theory, and half of Americans think Epstein was murdered. A third of Americans think a secret cabal controls the world. The evidence is clear, takes you to a hyperlink, and it goes to a Slate.com article by Fred Kaplan.
I'm surprised they didn't just link to Gerald Posner's shitty book.
Yeah, so there is no credible evidence to suggest that Jeffrey Epstein did not kill himself. The Manhattan Coroner's Report, it's all there. I mean, the thing about his hyoid bone being fractured, or just like how physically he could have hung himself in that cell, and just like leaving all of that aside, just the fact that he literally was a sex trafficker connected at the highest levels.
And all the fucking cameras just malfunctioned because the guards had Victorian sleeping caps on.
Connected intimately to one former president, one current president, and the royal family of England.
How do these people like rationalize when Acosta said like, oh, I was told not to really go that far because he belongs to intelligence.
He belongs to intelligence. That's part of the public record. Okay. The next question that we're going to be truth hunters for. Partisanship plays a role in what people believe. Both Republicans and Democrats are prone to believe conspiracy theories that make the other party look bad. Can you pick the true statement, or will you be blinded by party loyalty? Okay, first statement. Republicans cheated their way to the 2000, 2004, and 2016 presidential elections. I love the wording of this. See if you can spot
it's three,
what they're doing
it's
here.
All three or none.
It's
That's
all
it.
three or none. Yeah.
Oh my God.
You could... I think 2016 is the least credible of those, but you could pick either one of them and have a pretty okay case. But like certainly 2000 is
was out in the open.
Bulletproof, out in the open, cheating.
They sent a bunch of hooting psychos to stop counting, and then they used their control of the courts to stop a recount that would have changed the result.
By every conceivable, like by every metric. If the recount was allowed to continue, Al Gore would have won Florida and been the president.
Which is what was so funny about everyone freaking out about Trump or like future Republicans nullifying an election. It's like they already did that, and you did nothing about it. It's not going to be the triumph of fascism. It's going to be business as usual.
And look, I mean, like, like I don't know like how bulletproof it is or not, but 2004 there were some, you could look at Ohio as Secretary of State Ken Blackwell and his role in it. John Conyers tried to open hearings into it. He was just about the only one.
Ohio's a little wacky. There was like one place where they just kicked everybody out while they were counting the ballots because of an unspecified terror threat that was never followed up on. It's a little eyebrow raising.
No, but like, and that one is great because it's all three or nothing. You can't just say, "Oh, well, like, definitely at least two of them, at least two of them."
And
Republicans cheated.
You have to. And then if you're someone who spent the Trump years rolling their eyes at the fucking conspiracy liberals freaking out about Russia, you have to accept that if you think 2000 was in any way illegitimate, then that makes you the same as a person who thinks that Putin made everybody vote for Trump with Facebook.
Now, their answer to this, if you said Republicans did cheat their way to those three presidential elections, it says wrong. Republicans won fairly in 2000, 2004, and 2016. How could like 2004 and 2016? I can understand. How can you possibly say they won fairly in the 2000? I mean, the answer is for the Washington Post to say otherwise.
Because it went through. If it went through the process, it was legitimate by definition.
All right. Next conspiracy question. Hillary Clinton conspired to provide Russia with nuclear materials. I don't even know. I'm not even familiar with this.
Oh God, that's the uranium one shit. That's that uranium one shit. That is like that's pure Fox News. Like Hannity talked about that for like 4 straight years.
If you're like a Nelly Orehead, like you're like you like broke your mouse clicking yes on this one. Okay. This is like all the people who are like Glenn Simpson knew Nellie Orr and there's nothing about it in the news. It's like they love this one.
This is the kind of one where like even if it's true, I don't care. Why do I give a fuck if Ukraine has fucking uranium or if Clinton did it? Nothing has anything to do with anything. This one is purely just as a gotcha because they brought this one up. Hannity turned this one into a story because they were the Democrats were talking about Trump's relationship to Ukraine, and he was doing a jiu-jitsu deal.
Okay. I'm gonna skip the limited hangout answer, and I'm gonna go like the last one is Barack Obama faked his citizenship to become president. Easy, no one cares. Like you get rid of that immediately.
Once again, another one where if he did, who gives a shit?
Yeah, I don't give a fuck. I hope he did. Honestly, I hope he did.
That would have been that would have required some initiative and been pretty wily and interesting.
It's like the people who are obsessed with this idea that like Ilhan Omar married her brother to get citizenship in the country. Fine. I'm like, I don't know if it's true or not, but like I hope it is.
Like as far as I know, like Barack Obama's like Barack Obama is like one of the paramount villains of the 21st century, helped doom this fucking country, and his Machiavellian Frank Underwood plan to do it was get A's. That was his entire that was it. Get A's on tests. It's like if he's like fucking like as a kid falsifying birth certificates and stuff, it's like okay, there's somebody worthy of the position.
Or maybe I mean, it wasn't him. Maybe it was his mom who was probably agency connected. There's
either way, just something less banal than I'm going to just go to school and be good at it. I'm going to do a lot of homework.
Listen to the true answer, the one that they want you to pick, because the way it's worded is so fucking telling. All right. During Ronald Reagan's presidency, government officials secretly and illegally sold weapons to Iran and used the money to fund Nicaraguan revolutionaries. Can you spot the huge fucking lie there?
You know what the Contra in Contra is in front of?
Revolutionary.
Yes.
And okay, so this is the Washington Post. They're like, okay, what was the previous one? The wiretapping Martin Luther King.
Yeah.
Now that this is now just like they've admitted this, everybody knows the case. Books have been written about it. It's like no one can argue the opposite. It's the way they admit it that is still shading the truth to such an insane degree, because they're like, oh, this is safe. Yeah, that's every sensible person knows Reagan illegally funded revolutionaries in Nicaragua. Okay, leaving aside the part that they were not revolutionaries, they were Contras. Illegally funded death squads, like illegally funded the extermination of like the rural populations of like large parts of Central America.
And also
another way to put
that with cocaine sales that the United States abetted and covered up and participated in.
Major thing they're leaving out. Major thing.
It's like the FBI wiretap. It's like the FBI keeping tabs on Martin Luther King and other secret civil rights leaders. It's just like you could read that now and be like, oh well, I know bad things happened in the past, but keep tabs. And then with Reagan, it's just like, okay, like yeah, he didn't fill out the right forms, but look, he was funding revolutionaries. Okay,
yeah. The freedom fight,
these are humanitarian,
the moral
aid.
equivalent of our founding fathers.
Yes, as Ronnie Reagan said. Okay, it says here. Real-world events sometimes follow this formula as well. Example, the Reagan administration acted secretly and illegal in the Iran-Contra affair. The FBI did spy on King, but the key difference is that these real incidents are backed up by evidence, facts, and witnesses. Conspiracy theories are different. They're just theories. I mean, also just a theory is gravity and evolution. Most have no evidence to support them. I mean, like, there's a lot of evidence. There's a lot of evidence.
It's like you get to pick. It's almost like you get to pick which evidence counts when you work for the Washington Post.
They often connect unrelated facts to create an impression of plausibility. Yet almost everyone believes at least one. According to Enders, one thing I noticed a lot in talking to colleagues, journalists, and students, people don't realize that a lot of people just believe weird stuff. A lot of this commotion about conspiracy theories, especially in the last 4 or 5 years, is fueled by this complete misunderstanding of the basic contours of public opinion. Which brings us to our third fact-finding mission. Conspiracy theorists commonly seize on subjects that most people have little expertise in, such as health and science, and therefore cannot be easily debunked. Half of Americans believe one of the claims in the list below, but only one is backed by evidence. Which of these is true? Number 1. The dangers of genetically modified foods are being hidden from the public. I mean, personally, I don't really give a shit about GMOs. It's not really my thing, but at the same time, if you don't think that ConAgra and like Monsanto are like covering up really heinous shit about the food supply in this country.
Yeah, how many, if a company finds out, oh, this stuff we make is bad, do they ever go, well, shit, we better stop making it then? When has that ever happened? We have a pretty comprehensive list of other times when we know the opposite occurred. When they said, oh yeah, tough shit.
I think it's short-sighted to just say GMOs. I think it's like the amount of more obese Americans doesn't triple in 30 years because the food's great.
Yeah, I know. It's like it's not necessarily brainwashing us or whatever, but it's clearly the shit that they're feeding us is bad.
Yeah, and I don't know enough to tell you that that's because it's GMO. It's a ton of reasons, but it's ridiculous. It's another one of those things where it's oh yeah, no, in the 50s they told everyone char grilled meat and white bread was the healthiest thing to eat, and then they were oh yeah, we were wrong. But they would never do that again.
They had cigarette commercials done by doctors talking about how it enhances your Q zone. Yeah,
GMOs is not really an issue that I'm really into. I mean, I personally, I think whether something is genetically modified isn't necessarily good or bad. It does just because something's a GMO doesn't necessarily mean it's bad for you or evil or poison or whatever. I mean, the thing is the dangers of our food supply are absolutely being hidden from the public. And GMOs there is the distraction that you'd be well, I'm reasonable. I'm not some sort of new agey nut who only eats organic or whatever. But so many of the ingredients that are in candy, food preservatives, not just junk food, but almost everything that you eat or buy in a supermarket or gas station in this country contains chemicals, preservatives. It contains things in it that in any European country, it is illegal to feed those same chemicals to animals, to livestock. It is just simply because they've determined that it is detrimental to human life. And we are the food supply system in this country views Americans as slightly lower than cattle. Yeah. In terms of what we're willing to expose them, what it is legal to knowingly expose people to.
Yes.
Without their consent, largely, because I mean, it's not like this is an informed consent thing. Right. You just you buy some ding dongs, you're oh, delicious. Okay, next up. The U.S. government secretly dosed Americans with LSD in an attempt to develop mind control technology.
Well, yeah.
Well, now, this is the correct answer. Yeah. It says correct. The operation was called MK Ultra, and it ended in the 70s.
And they would never do anything like that ever again.
Yeah.
They just got bored. They got bored with it. It was this is another guy freaking out, thinking that he's Jesus that shoots the president. Man, this is boring.
I think this is like I have to call this like the Family Guy view of the intelligence community, where it's like every horrible thing they've done is like they do it for a week and then they're like, that was crazy, but we like learned our lesson.
Yeah.
Let's not
just
do
cut
it
away
again.
gags.
Yeah.
Hey, Lois, remember when we had a bunch of hookers give people LSD in a bordello?
And one of them killed himself? All right, next up is the AIDS virus was created and spread around the world on purpose by a secret organization. I mean, I don't subscribe.
I don't really.
I never
think
really
so.
saw the angle on that one, honestly.
Yeah, it's like incomplete.
And then finally, the coronavirus was purposely created and released by powerful people as part of a conspiracy.
Released, I don't know, but created, that's absolutely on the table. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's up for grabs there.
Yeah. I mean, that one, it's just, I have some problems with the overall narrative fitting it in. I mean, like, certainly the result of it being rampaging across the planet, you could look at it and say, like, the consolidation of wealth among the, like, tiny elite of the, global capitalist class has been rather staggering. But that doesn't necessarily mean they did it on purpose. It's rather, capitalism, every disaster is an opportunity.
Exactly. Like, that's the thing that's the thing that doesn't move me about any of the intentional release ideas, is that they don't need to do that. The Great Reset already fucking happened 40 years ago. Like, we are depoliticized and scattered enough that we are at basically their will able to be reorganized as crises accumulate, which they're just going to keep doing.
And I mean, I think like the most, I mean, like whether it's AIDS or coronavirus, I think like the most. I think the most credible explanation for these novel viruses that become these plagues upon humanity is like at some point it just crosses over from animals into people, and this is once again largely a product of industrial agriculture on a certain level. And when it comes to things like the SARS or in COVID, and I think like it's the animal to human crossover is I think like. Whether it happens organically or whether you think someone did it on purpose,
right?
But
I mean, if it did get out of a lab, like they're doing that gain of function shit because we're constantly just spitting in God's face every day, daring the natural world to spit one of these things back at us.
Yep, and believe me, they're going to be spitting back a lot in the decades to come. Yeah. All right, so next conspiracy question: some conspiracy theories are like astrology. Entertaining nonsense that ultimately doesn't hurt anyone. You see the disrespect they have for women in the Washington Post here?
Yeah, honestly.
You see the sexism on display here? Astrology is entertaining nonsense? I'd love to see your fucking moon sign, buddy. Yeah, I got a good idea about what it is.
I'm getting word that the Washington Post now has fewer female subscribers than we do.
It says, okay, but some are entertaining but ultimately don't hurt anyone. But some are bizarre, sinister, or downright offensive. Which of these statements, if any, is correct? School shootings, such as those in Newtown, Connecticut and Parkland, Florida, are false flag attacks perpetrated by the government. Now, I personally do not believe that school shootings are false flag attacks perpetrated by the government. However, I do believe many other mass shootings are.
Absolutely. It's interesting how, once again, they pick like, the one where all the kids got killed, and of course the one where psychos attached to Alex Jones like harassed family members. The most repulsive thing. You're like, oh no, of course not. Meanwhile, the fact that the FBI every other day has a string of dudes whose job is just to be constantly texting the most unstable people they can find on Facebook and tell them, hey, dude, you should definitely shoot some people today.
They literally had like a neat, and we're like, here's a hot girl telling you to do a terrorist attack.
And hey, remember when Stephen Paddock's brother went on the news the day after he shot like 700 people and was like, yeah, there's no reason he would do this. None of it makes sense. And like the next day his house burned down and the FBI was like, he had 1 billion files of child pornography on his computer. Matt, I know you know, like you put me on that story about that QAnon dad whose kid was at Parkland and he's like he's at war with his kid and he thinks his kid is a crisis actor.
Like, goddamn. That is being on the computer too much.
That's taking the pill. Next question. Satanic sex traffickers control the government. I mean, fact.
Yeah.
I was saying see Epstein in the first question. I don't know if they're satanic or not. I mean,
satanic.
That's like a term of art. That's a sort of license.
Like the theater kids amongst them are. The ones who like the robes and the pageantry are. But like most of them are like Nixon. They're like, get that shit out of here. I just want to have sex with some children.
Yeah.
And none of the above. That's clearly the correct answer. I'm interested to like what their response is to satanic sex traffickers control the government. Wrong. This theory might seem ridiculous, but Americans have long blamed Satanists for the country's problems. 1 in 7 Americans believe this theory in October 2020. All right. Question 5. Let's try another one. Which of these 3 statements below is true? The U.S. government knew hundreds of black men in Alabama had syphilis, but told them they had bad blood and withheld treatment as part of a medical experiment. Obviously true. That's the Tuskegee experiments. I think everyone pretty much knows about that. Next one. President Donald Trump faked having COVID in order to help his chances at re-election. I mean, once again, I don't care if it's true or not.
Yeah, once again, it's like more initiative than he generally showed at any part of the job.
Yeah, it feels fake because like that's not, he wouldn't do like the bulk. If he was like faking having COVID, like he would have like walked around in a bathrobe and stuff.
For me, it's the thing about him asking if he's going out like Stan Shera.
That proves he really has.
That is a truthful, existential peel from a terrified soul.
That's when I was like talking about the Stan Shera thing once. This like, you know, one of those like based like young conservatives was like, "Oh, you're a lib if you believe that," and it's like, I think I know way more about the guy you supposedly love.
Exactly. Do you really like this guy at all?
You don't know any of his like. No, this is the first guy he would bring up.
You think some fucking dork from like the Washington Post or one of the leaking aides knows who fucking Stan Shera is?
That's like how I knew it was true.
Yeah.
Because it's like, that's, of course he would bring up Stan Shera. Yeah. Like, no, that's, a guy he ate like a cumulative, like 3 million pounds of hamburgers with.
Yeah. And then it also means that if he faked it, he would have had to think, okay, well, if I was dying of coronavirus, what would I think? Am I going out with Santera? No, it would never occur to him that he would think that. He would think he was going to say something cool and not about a round old real estate man.
We saw like him like trying to like lie that directly after the Ruth Bader Ginsburg died, and he did the funniest video of all time when he's like,
"This is the first time I'm hearing
this.
What an amazing lady!" It's like, he's just like that type of lying. He's not
a particularly
really
good liar.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because he's not like quite like self-aware enough to be a good liar. He's not like the type of person who's like, oh, okay, I'm like kind of a bad guy. Like, what would I say here if I was in this situation?
I mean, he lies constantly, but he lies like a child does, not with any sort of preconceived, like no.
It's just reflex.
Yeah, exactly. Reflective without any kind of plan or contemplation.
Yeah, there's no premeditation. Yeah. It's just he's just in the moment. And he's like, I'll get out of this. Last one here. Donald Trump colluded with Russians to steal the presidency in 2016. Again, just don't give a shit one way or the other.
Yeah, honestly.
But
we had it coming. If that guy and that country stole an election for the presidency, then fucking take a bow.
Yeah, losing one to like. Yeah, losing one to James Baker and like that whole cabal is like understandable. It's like, those guys have been fucking.
Both teams played hard.
Yeah, those guys have been fucking everyone forever. Like, of course they won, but like if like Russia does it, it's like you suck.
Yeah,
like we just shouldn't
shouldn't have a country.
Russia and the stupidest idiot on earth.
I think it should be like soccer in Europe. Like if that were true of America, we need to get derelegated to like from the Premier League to like Champions League.
Take our nuclear weapons.
Yeah. But like the correct answer here again is telling because they're like, everybody knows about the Tuskegee experiment. Started in 1932, lasted 40 years, and involved hundreds of black men in Macon County, Alabama. I just love the things that they like just breezily admit that we all know are true, but then they're just like, there's no way Jeffrey Epstein was murdered. Yeah. I mean, yes, the government did knowingly allow hundreds of black men to like suffer the effects of syphilis as part of a human guinea pig medical experiment that carried over decades. Yes, Reagan absolutely broke the law, funding illegal revolutionaries and selling arms to Iran. They're like, oh yeah, we all know that's true, but like, these other things are just like, that we'd be lied to about how poisonous our food food is? No way.
Well, like that's the most sober-minded thing to think is that like every bad thing stopped happening 40 years ago.
Yeah.
Like on the dot.
The important thing is like you have to be enough of a realist to say, yes, the government has done bad things, corporations have done bad things, but you can't take that to the conclusion that because these entities are completely unchecked and the bad stuff they did back then was because there was no oversight, which continues to be the case. You can't bring it now because what does that mean then? What if that's true, then you can't care about the stupid pageantry politics bullshit that they insist you have to care about.
I mean, like their answer for the MK Ultra one, where they're like, yes, the U.S. government did conduct mind control experiments using LSD. It was called MK Ultra. It ended in 1970. All right, last conspiracy question. Conspiracy theories often help powerful people, sometimes by putting other powerful people in the crosshairs, or by playing on prejudices. Which of these statements is correct? Number 1. A powerful family, the Rothschilds, through their wealth, controls governments, wars, and many countries' economies. I mean, I love this question because it's like, okay, it's clear what's going on right now. They're like, oh, it's playing on bigotry. It's like the Rothschilds is like, this is a long staple of like, anti-Semitic conspiracy theory lore. But like, just take out the name Rothschilds and just read this question. A powerful families, through their wealth, control governments, wars, and many countries' economies. Like, unassailably true.
Yeah.
And you could like, whether it's George Soros or the Kochs or fucking like whoever you want to slot in there, that even the Rothschilds, like it's all fucking true.
Yeah.
How could you possibly say otherwise?
Yeah.
If you like click yes on that, the like little correction you get is like, oh really? If they're so powerful, how come J Electronica destroyed one of their marriages?
Wait, what?
You don't know about that?
No.
J Electronica, like a Rothschild woman, like had an affair with him and like left her husband. He's awesome. He rocks. One of the best verses on Donda. Ruined at least like maybe 2 Rothschilds' lives. Maybe if I don't know if she had kids, maybe more. I don't know what, but like he rocks. He's the fucking.
I'm just
man.
gonna think of what they tell you. Wrong. This theory relies on openly anti-Semitic tropes. No family and no country has the power this theory attributes to the Rothschilds.
Okay, yeah, sure.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, the next one, this is even better. There is a, quote, deep state embedded in the government that operates in secret and without oversight.
What is the oversight that these people think exists for agencies
FISA.
like the NSA
It's literally
and the
just
CIA?
FISA.
Congress.
They always
They're
just
talking
bring up
about
the FISA court. That's
well,
it.
let's see here. It says, wrong. For much of the past 4 years, Republicans have speculated that a deep state was working to undermine President Donald Trump. While the FBI and CIA do conduct covert operations, there's little evidence for a separate deep state. Oh, there's only a little evidence for it. Oh, okay. But what I like about this one is like this whole idea of the deep state, they contain it to just 4 years when Donald Trump was president, and it's like only Rube MAGA people who believe in that.
Accusations behind it. Certainly couldn't have anything to do with things like, I don't know, keeping tabs on Martin Luther King or dosing people with LSD to see what happens. Like, who the fuck do they think did that shit? And how accountable were they when it just got found out and then they just said, we're never going to do it again, we promise, and nobody went to jail?
Okay, final conspiracy question. Fossil fuel companies like Exxon knew about climate change for decades, but spread misinformation about the issue to deflect blame and influence environmental policies. Correct. Exxon and Shell knew about climate change in the 80s, and some fossil fuel companies have fought to obscure climate science. Their efforts have paid off. 2 in 10 Americans think global warming is a hoax. It's good, though. They did all that shit, but it's okay because we know about it and they've been held accountable.
Well, and also, Exxon found out a long time ago that their product is actually really bad for people and the world, and they just sat on it and actually put out spent money to smokescreen the truth. Meanwhile, Monsanto, if they knew that their corn slurry was bad for people, they would absolutely fess up immediately.
And the same thing as a deep state. We have oversight and accountability in the American political system. So, the idea that a company like Exxon could just lie about something like that and then get away with it, you'd have to be pretty. I wasn't born. I'm young, but I wasn't born yesterday.
Yeah.
So there we go. That is the conspiracy score. I mean, not really. Our final score doesn't really matter here, but it says here 9 in 10 Americans would likely fail at least once taking this quiz. Even reasonable people fall for conspiracy theories.
Who are the 10%? I want to meet those people
who got every question on this right.
Yeah.
The good boys and girls.
Yeah, if you did a heat map of who's getting every question right, it's just all Darien, Connecticut, and Nova.
Yep, and
everyone
else
the people who got
failing.
every question on the 10% who got every question right are involved in the conspiracies that these things are about.
They were also proud of themselves that they went to work that day and I'm going to get an extra.
No, they're also proud
piece of bread with my Caesar salad at Chopped today.
Matt, they're actually proud of themselves for not going to work on one day in particular.
Yeah, the guy who was working the phone bank that day is I know these are conspiracies.
It says here, during George W. Bush's presidency, half of Democrats said Bush let the 9/11 attacks happen so he could start wars.
Damn, Democrats
that's shocking
used to be
half of Democrats.
No, they used Democrats
and now half of Democrats want him on the Democratic ticket.
75% of Democrats would give their life for the NSA. There's no more based libs. There's no more Ed Asner's. It used to be, man, libs used to be awesome because we've talked about this before, but it's that is what my dad was like, and a lot of other boomers, where it's they don't have really a systemic critique, but just because of their when they grew up and everything, they have an inherent distrust of the CIA and the military. They're not like that anymore.
Yeah,
they don't make them that way anymore.
The orange Cheeto had his effect.
Even before that, though, they would they were Obama's the coolest man ever.
So, but
although that Obama, another reason why Obama's so evil. My dad thought all this cool shit like that, and then he was Obama's a hell of a guy, and it's man.
He's a firecracker.
Yeah.
I want to make his clit insane.
Yeah. Obama really he really did a number on the based boomer libs.
But this is the Washington Post though, so this paragraph has to be balanced out. We got to have both sides here. So half of Democrats believed at one point that Bush let the 9/11 attacks happen so he could start wars. Again, I don't know how anyone could possibly argue against that.
It's ridiculous
in 2021. But also, if you're a Democrat, don't feel bad, because 2/3 of Republicans believe the quote big lie that the 2020 election was stolen from Donald Trump. Now, I personally don't think there's even a shred of credibility to the idea that but after everything we just talked about, I mean, is it not possible?
Well, that's just
they
it.
can steal a presidential election from anyone.
This whole thing is to chide you for believing these things. Meanwhile, how about some stuff that they didn't even put in there, like that the U.S. government lied to start a war in the Middle East, which happened right in front of everybody's fucking face and living memory of most adults, and had a giant economic collapse that was responded to by a bipartisan recapitalization of the very bankers that fucking had it happen in the first place. Why the hell wouldn't people believe this shit? And they have to turn it into you're just being too gullible. You're not being rational enough. Meanwhile, the purveyors of rationality show you every fucking day that their vested interest is to keep you believing horseshit, to keep you pliant to these fucking forces.
Well, Matt, the last paragraph here says, eventually you'll run into a conspiracy theory that appeals to you politically or psychologically. So be careful and double check your sources, or you could fall down the rabbit hole too.
So what? What if I do? Are you going to give me an F? Am I going to get a bad grade from the Washington Post? I'm going to be held back? Fuck off.
Yeah.
All they have is the good people are going to think poorly of you. Well, I fucking think you eat babies. Why would I give a shit what you think?
No. Bob Woodward's going to come to your house and personally scold you for believing that he's a CIA
and I want to
agent.
talk to him about his time with the fucking Office of Naval Intelligence.
Yeah.
Well, you're not invited to the news rave. I'm going. Fuck you. I got these special pressed mollies that are shaped like all Arthur Seltzerberg.
Arthur Seltzerberg, inventor of White Claw.
Yeah. I'm gonna turn up. Fuck you. You're gonna be outside.
Yeah. I'm minting a new NFT. It's Catherine Graham, but she's a stork and she's smoking weed.
You know,
It's worth $80,000.
Will, you know that I run like the Moody's of NFT. Like I'm the like what bond rating is for like financial instruments that make sense. I evaluate dopeness. That gets 3 dopes. Do you know FaZe Banks?
Of course,
the star of my favorite video of all time. He made like $900,000 in like one night off NFTs.
See, there you go.
There you go.
Forget all that shit you're talking about, aesthetics and art and stuff. That is why people fucking do it, because you could be the one to get in before it falls apart or it gets rug pulled or whatever the fuck.
That proves that these are like legit.
I mean, they're legit if you make money.
Oh, if you made almost $1 million off of him, and that's about as legit as it gets.
Yeah.
But I mean, that is the thing, though. It's like he commands like a captive audience and could be like, these are dope, and like send the value up.
Yeah, that's why this is so great, because it's like there's like they're basically they're pump and dumps turned into a security. Like, and
that's all legal.
They have mechanisms to allow you, if you have the right clout, to manipulate a market legally. Who the hell wouldn't want to do that?
This would be like NFTs are like it allows you to do all the cool shit that should be legal in the stock market.
Yes.
Like, if I'm Jordan Belfort, I should just like hold a press conference and just say Pepsi causes AIDS, and then I short Pepsi stock.
Yeah.
Like before I do that. Like you should be allowed to do that. That's how you make it fun.
Especially since Pepsi does cause AIDS.
Yeah.
This you could say, the fucking hippo head is fucking whack. Sell. Lazy orangutan. That's dope. Buy.
We don't have like a FaZe Bank sized audience. We have a pretty captive one. Like when we've asked our audience to do like good things, they've done it.
Yeah.
Like they like every fundraising thing, like working for Bernie, like all that shit, they've like always done it. They're like a good audience. What if we made an NFT of like one of those pictures where Patrick is like asleep on the floor outside? We would make so much.
Oh yeah.
If we like told our audience it's dope.
Yeah.
NFT of the photo Amber took of Matt dressed like a 3-year-old next to a 3-year-old that's like that's wearing the exact same outfit as him.
That honestly could make some money.
Yeah.
All right, well let's do it.
Let's do it, boys.
Let's do it. Is there any reason not to at this point?
I mean, it is. I wouldn't do it.
We just talked about the global supply chains are breaking down, so I mean, might as well.
Yeah.
The only like defensible reason to do this would be like you're taking money, like you're maximizing your profit from like a junk made up asset like NFTs, and you immediately get out and you put it into like a good asset, like a good financial instrument like slots or blackjack or roulette. That would be cool.
No,
otherwise no.
As long as I still draw breath, there will never be any Chapo NFTs or cryptocurrencies.
No.
I can't do it.
Next week we will be killing Will. Live on Twitch TV/Chapo Trap House.
And then the Washington Post will say I committed suicide, probably.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, look at the motive. Qui bono? Who benefits? It's Felix.
Yeah. I'm going to join the deep state, and they're going to be like, I'm going to get, like, in 10 years, they'll be like, don't go to work today. And I'll be like, what do you mean?
I don't work.
What the fuck are you talking about? And they're like, oh, yeah, sorry. You have like a similar name to this guy that like goes to an office. I'm like, all right, peace. I'll see you at the news rave.
Oh boy. All right. Well, I think that does it for today's. Till next time, guys.
Bye-bye.
Till next time.
Bye-bye.